Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, it's no April Fool's joke. Tonight, top authorities across Billings and Yellowstone County lay down the law about staying at home.
Do not violate these orders. Take them very, very seriously.
A strong reminder to follow recent orders from the county and the governor, saying the failure to follow could be catastrophic to our community and state and are punishable if you don't voluntarily comply. Well, this community outreach as confirmed COVID-19 cases surpass well over 200 across Montana today. Less than an hour ago, the total of confirmed cases reached 217. Total deaths remain at 5 tonight. Now, those increases include 1 in Yellowstone County, 2 more in the Flathead, and 3 in Gallatin County, bringing the total there to 79. According to a model used by the Trump administration, that spike will not be ending anytime soon. In fact, we could be dealing with implications of coronavirus for months to come. According to the model, we'll see our peak on April 25th was approximately 9 deaths a day. By June, death tolls in Montana are expected to reach 270 before leveling out. These projections come from the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington. Now, they assume strong social distancing measures remain in place to protect against the spread of the disease. At this time, Montana will have enough hospital beds, but be short of ICU beds. It also expects 100 ventilators will be needed statewide. Again, these are projections that are used by the White House Coronavirus Task Force. Well, Yellowstone County Chief Medical Officer John Felton says the failure to follow these latest guidelines is catastrophic. Russ Riesinger standing by now at home tonight with more on today's message to the community.
Well, Jeanelle, since Governor Bullock issued that order last week, most Montanans have been doing their best to follow it, but not everyone. And a lot of people also have a lot of questions. Today's news conference answered some of those questions and also made it very clear that that order will be followed.
The governor's order requires that gatherings be both essential and limited in size. The governor's order is not an either or, it's a both and. And I think that's been some confusion. So we've had some folks say, you know, it's a small group, isn't okay. It's got to be essential and it's got to be limited in size.
Our preferences is for voluntary compliance, education if you have contact with law enforcement, and then after repeated or very egregious or blatant violations, then we will work closely with the county attorney's office and the public health department to issue citations and or arrest at their directive.
This disease is now killing our Montanans. It's wrecking our economy. It's damaging this town that I grew up in, the state that I love.
Twido said that people can be fined for every day that they're in violation of the order and could possibly even face jail time. Now, another thing that came out of today's news conference is we're not even at the peak of the outbreak here in Montana yet. That's not expected to happen until the end of the month, April 25th.
The cost of failure to follow these guidelines is catastrophic. This isn't just a, oops, we didn't do it. This is catastrophic. It's the cost of failure is almost unimaginable.
Felton saying nobody wants to see people get arrested, but he says it is essential that people take this seriously and follow this order. Reporting in Billings, I'm Russ Riesinger for Q2 News. Jeanelle, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Russ. Now, if you have questions about the orders after reviewing them online, you can call the county attorney's office. Violations can be reported to the public health office. That's at 651-6415. And we just got word within the hour that 73 Montana Army and Air National Guard men and women have been activated for state active duty. The soldiers and airmen will be used in 11 cities at 17 locations across Montana to screen people arriving from other states and countries at our airports and train stations. Now, that process begins this Friday. Well, today, Governor Steve Bullock issues another directive to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in state correctional facilities. The directive suspends new transfers into the Department of Corrections custody except when authorized by the director. If transfers are authorized, those new inmates will need to be quarantined for 14 days. The directive also includes several measures to be implemented by the Department of Corrections, including screening anyone who arrives at the facility and restricting all in-person visitation. Well, the Board of Pardons and Parole will also consider early release for some non-violent criminals. Well, as rent is due today for thousands of Montanans, there are still questions surrounding Governor Steve Bullock's directive allowing payments to be late. Now, that order came down yesterday, instructing landlords to give renters extra time as the coronavirus impacts the economy and people are put out of work. But it doesn't mean renters won't eventually have to pay their April rent. Those with the Department of Commerce say it instead allows time to figure out the next step.
Basically, it relieves some of the pressure off of folks to know that right in the middle of this emergency, they're not going to be displaced from their homes. It does not forgive their rent or their mortgage or any of their payments. It really just gives them a little bit of breathing room to figure out what they can and what they need to do.
While renters have time to figure out those details, landlords and property owners are also getting some extra time. Those with Montana Housing encourage buyers to talk with their lenders. Well, hotels are an essential service under the governor's directive, but have been impacted greatly because of the stay-at-home directive. The Northern Hotel in downtown Billings has seen a decrease that started with the cancellation of basketball tournaments. Now, with the governor's directive, business has dropped even more. Northern President Mike Nelson says his crew is doing even more cleaning now. Rooms have been left vacant for at least 3 days before renting them out again. Nelson says he's ready to help.
It seems like it's slowed us down a little bit more. I think every communication that comes from the governor's office that is meant to shelter us in place or quarantine us, it talks the next traveler out of coming to Montana. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. That's really not too bad. We're eager to do our part to help solve this crisis.
And Mike says the 2 restaurants at the Northern, 10 and Bernie's, are open for takeout orders. Well, restaurants in Billings are teaming up to make sure that people in need, kids and senior citizens, are staying fed during this pandemic. We checked in with one of those restaurants and the person that helped start the Yellowstone County Restaurant Coalition.
Well, we had contact with, actually Matthew contacted us and asked if we would help, setting something up, and it was all through Facebook, and we jumped on right away. Of course, we want to support our community as much as we can, even though, it's a little tough for us as well. But there's other people who are even worse off than we are.
We're always willing to help the community. Like Birgit was saying, we know there's families out there that need food, and so we're always willing to help out with the community with Adult Resource Alliance and Family Services, or a few that we've helped in the past, Tumbleweed, doing fundraisers. So this is a way that we can give back to them as well.
If you want to get those vouchers, you can go through the Adult Resource Alliance, Family Promise, Family Services. Tumbleweed has vouchers as well. We did distribute some to the school district, but the school district was distributing those to the families in need, so I wouldn't go through the school district to get those. So right now it's Adult Resource Alliance, Family Promise, Family Services, Tumbleweed. Those are the main ones you want to get out to and go to if you need to get any assistance.
And some great support in our community. Well, every one of us is affected by the coronavirus, but how many of us actually have a clear understanding when it comes to the virus itself? MTN's Annie Johnson sat down with a doctor in Bozeman to show us.
You hear the word coronavirus dozens of times throughout the day, but do you know what the virus actually does to your body and why it's so dangerous? Let's hear from the doctor.
Medically, it's a virus in the family or class of corona that is a group of viruses that we see routinely, but unfortunately a group of people will actually get it, so it disrupts the function of their lower respiratory system, their lungs.
And Dr. Sullivan shows us what that can look like internally.
And then you can see this white stuff that's here, that's not up there. That is the effect of coronavirus.
According to the doctor, a coronavirus diagnosis doesn't mean a death sentence.
The majority will recover. And then there will be people who don't know that they have it. But even the symptomatic people, the majority will recover.
Dr. Sullivan advises people to take social distancing and CDC guidelines seriously if they want to stop the virus from spreading.
People who get symptomatic with it will have been shedding the virus before they came down with the symptoms. So that's why the social distancing is so important, too, because you don't know if you won't necessarily know if you have it, and you certainly won't know you've been shedding it before you get symptoms.
While there's still no cure, hospitals do have treatments for patients.
Treatment means, hey, there's something that we can give you that will keep you healthy and possibly alive as your body's going through the process of beating the coronavirus on its own.
The number of corona cases in Montana is continuously going up, but with safety measures put in place, Dr. Sullivan believes this is something we can overcome. Reporting at the Bozeman Health Hospital, Annie Johnson, MTN News.
All right, thanks so much, Annie. Well, in response to people who say they're being denied coronavirus testing, a computer programmer and former member of the Montana legislature created a website where they can share their stories. Untestedmontana.com was launched on Friday, and untestedwyoming.com was launched yesterday. Both websites were created as a place where residents of both states can share information on their symptoms after being turned away for testing. Now, once collected, the information will be given to the governor's offices and state COVID-19 task forces to use however they see fit.
We can make sure folks' stories are heard. I'm sure many are seeing on Facebook right now from friends and family who cannot get tested. And we're just trying to give those folks agency and make sure the government and the authorities have that data.
Now, he also mentioned all fields on the website are voluntary, and as soon as that information is handed over to the state, it will be completely wiped from his database. Again, those websites are untestedmontana.com and untestedwyoming.com. Well, in this time of social distancing and isolation, it's become even more lonely for some seniors. So the Billings Public Library is launching SOS Mail, or Send Our Seniors Mail. You can make a card, draw a picture, write a letter, and send it to a local senior living facility. Since the library is temporarily closed, this is a program you can do from home through April 30th. A full list of facilities and addresses can be found in this story on our website at KTVQ.com. Well, ahead on tonight's 5:30 News, a look inside a local water district office inundated with calls because local residents are wondering if their water is safe to drink. And in sports, great news for Montana's Jesse Davis, back home after near death at a rodeo. Scott Heerts from the Friendly Cowboy.
The warmest reading today, 32, but that happened just a little after midnight, and that light snow really didn't add up today. We'll take a look at the forecast heading into the next few days when we come back in a minute.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.